Fifth race of the four-man World Cup. We're in Innsbruck in Austria on a snowy day, but fortunately the weather has held off and our first run has got through completely successfully. Hello everybody, I'm Martin Haven, alongside me John Morgan. The fifth race of the BMW IBSF World Cup and also the European Championship, second and deciding heat about to get underway.
Pretty exciting first run. Canadian Justin Cripps, silver medal yesterday in the two-man. He leads the World Cup in two-man. Four-man doing pretty good also. Good start. And he rocketed on the bottom behind at the start to the top sled, the Germans, but good speed in the bottom, and Cripps continues his very successful season. Well, this guy here, Johannes Lochner, he's the defending world champion, and he won last week's event in Winterberg. His parents and a large contingent of people from Berchtesgaden, where he's from, is on hand, and he has a little problem on the bottom part of the track, like a lot of teams, and Lochner, not the best start, but had great speed on the bottom, and he's going to chase down his teammate Francisco Friedrich, who tied for the World Championships last year with Lochner. And these guys posted the best start time. They hit the roof at 10, sideways at 13. Somehow got to the bottom, and he had the best time. He won yesterday's two-man event. He's going for the double gold here in Innsbruck.
So our tied world champions in four-man are just 800ths of apart in this fifth race of the season. Justin Cripps 100th away from them. Looks like Nico Walter and the rest are in a tight battle for the crumbs from the table with, look at that, tie for 12th, tie for 14th, tie for 16th and a tie for 20th place. And the gaps between all of those are just another few hundredths of a second. So out go Clemens Brescia, Nick Cunningham, Matthias Luthi and the rest. There's Francesco Friedrich, and after claiming his first medal of the season in Winterberg, returning to Europe has certainly turned his form around. The Valna sleds were misfiring quite badly in North America. They seem to be back on it. Nick Polonyato missed out on a bronze medal yesterday. He was in third place after the heats, but unfortunately the cowling on the sled was deemed to be 4 millimeters too narrow after a number of crashes in the season, and he was disqualified, which is a tough break for him and for the Canadian team. We can see the runners there sitting out in the sunshine, highly polished to reduce the friction to as little as humanly possible. And everybody practicing their starting drills, trying to get that synchronization correct before we get onto the ice. Chris Spring of Canada will be first off, tied with Ivo de Bruyn in the top 20. So 21 sleds go in our final run. 21 sleds to Christmas, and the break that everybody in the field so desperately needs for rest and recuperation to get battered bodies back together and also to focus on the canter downhill towards Pyeongchang 2018. Francesco Friedrich will be the 21st and final sled on the ice, and conditions look absolutely ideal. Not a flake of snow in the air, and it's nice and cool and crisp. Second in deciding heat, race 5 of the four-man World Cup. Chris Spring gets the action underway, tied 20th in the first heat.
They had a start mishap here. Josh Kirkpatrick, Neville Wright, Cameron Stones, 5:08. And with a good run here, he could move up 10, maybe 7 or 8 places, because Spring, they had to drag one of their guys into the sled at the start. And on this track, which is all about the start, they made a major mistake, and they were lucky to make the cut.
Well, a 10th of a second improvement would have left him in 14th position rather than 20th. So he could definitely move up in the leader's box. He's shown pace all year long. The Canadian sleds have been very quick. The drivers really on top of their game. Looking at the speeds here, 65.2 miles an hour, 105 kilometers an hour. I think the track should be quicker, 124.8 than it was in the first heat. That's 77.5 miles an hour.
Yeah, on this track built for the 76 Winter Olympic Games, and 51.46.
Quicker nearly, well, 700s. That's a big improvement.
Well, it's because this guy fell at the start. You know, he was quick all the way down the track.
Plus also no snow in the track now, and there was for almost everybody in the first heat to varying degrees. So we should see quicker track conditions.
I believe he's going to move up at least 4 or 5 spots.
Yeah.
Well, this is the exit of the Kreisel. First slingshot, and then Looking to hug that right-hand wall. 8, that's into curve 8.
Yeah, could have done with being a little more to driver's left, but that's not bad. Good run from Chris Spring. And these guys know they've got so much potential. Ivo de Bruin making the cut here in tied for 20th position. And he missed the cut in Winterberg after being in the top 20 in all 3 races. Disqualified yesterday from the 2-man race. Still don't know why. No notification on that. That was post-race. And unfortunately, he didn't make the cut anyway, but it's still important points that they've lost.
I think this is the brand new Eurotech sled.
Well, Tom Delahunty was still arguing with the Material Commission about the new steering gear the other day. They still turned it away, despite the fact that the designer is absolutely convinced it meets the requirements. So I'm not sure whether it is or it isn't. 5:12 getaway, 5:13 in the first heat.
Keep your eyes on the left here. See the speed pop up, 50.5. If you want to keep track of
Same as
box
Chris
score,
Spring.
that's a telltale sign there. That start is one thing, the entry into the sled, getting around that first curve clean's another.
Don't forget, tied in the first heat. But Chris Spring had less momentum at the start. He's out to 1100s behind Ivo. And 1300s, the gap continues to grow little by little.
Not great. Well,
That's
he's
not
a
going to help
kilometer
him.
down.
Yeah, 64.7 miles an hour. Spring was 65.2 there. Spring was 125 kilometers an hour.
Pretty good steer down there at 12:13. A lot of sleds having problems at curve 12:13. 51.73, he's a 10th quicker.
Yep.
Spring was 4/10ths quicker. Cam Stones.
Right, Josh Kirkpatrick and Chris Spring hanging out in the leader's box. Somebody get them some jackets. I think they may be there a few more sleds.
Still a good top 20 run for Ivo de Bruin in this Holland Casino sledge.
Well, in fact, he'll end up likely 21st, which means in years to come, when we look at it, we'll go, oh, yeah, he didn't make the cut then.
But he
although,
did,
in fact, he has.
because of the tie.
Because of the tie. Yeah, that's going to be confusing, isn't it?
Curve 9, that exit of curve 9, you need to be clean there.
Well, they're not short in spirit. Third of our starters in this final pre-Christmas heat for 4-man bobsleighs. Dominik Dvorak of the Czech Republic. And Dvorak, with a really strong year last year, stepped out of the shadow of Jan Verber, who's not even here. One of the big names that's not here, including the Koreans, who have gone back home to Pyeongchang, and we believe we're unlikely to see them for the rest of the season until the Games.
Jan Verber's and LaPlagne getting more double point, they get half the points on the Europa Cup, but there's 2 races there. It's all about points and seating, and a little bit of a, came out of that drive line, he was heading for the wall, 5:11 start, now watch what I say is the box score of bobsledding, 50.6 is pretty good.
Yep, same as Chris Spring, 31.4 miles an hour. 19th in the race last year, he was 19th in the first heat.
Boy, a lot of pressure out of that curve 5.
300ths of a second behind Chris Spring, so Spring's not exactly vaulted away by a million miles.
Hanging in there now.
Currently,
that's pretty good there.
Second on the splits.
Not what Spring had, though. 123.8. Spring was a kilometer better.
Yeah.
This is pretty good lines, though. So sometimes the fast lines are the rough lines. That was pretty smooth.
300s
he went 1000s
in front.
faster. So the track's 1000s better. They went 4000s better because one of their guys fell at the start in the first run, or else they'd be up in the top 7 or 8.
He's 300s ahead of Ivo de Bruin. So that's the 1, 2, 3. Chris Spring still leads. Dvorak second. De Bruin third. I'll take a look again at the low. Dominik Dvorak, one of Czech Republic's fastest sprinters.
Look at that. He narrowly escapes hitting the wall, and the push bar still not in. They should be settled before they get to that first curve. They're not settled. Push bar still out. Down here, though, this is pretty good. Look at you. Can we see any heads and shoulders behind the driver?
Down here, you always do. You get bumped
survival.
Around. Yeah.
This little surviving curve 13 down there, but.
So Dvorak is down and in second place with 18 sleds to go. Next up, Lamindine of Great Britain. Best World Cup 4-man result for him was a silver medal in Whistler, the last North American race, just 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Surprised they had a 5:10 start. This first-time medalist back in North America.
20th place in last year's race in Innsbruck.
you know, 5'10". These 4 athletes should be down 504, 505. I didn't understand that first run. Ooh,
Skiddy,
there's 506. Much better. Well, 400s doesn't sound like much, but 400s at the top is 1200s at the bottom. 1200s on this track's an eternity.
Yeah.
That's excellent velocity there.
1200s is the difference between him and in 18th and 10th place in the first heat. So yeah, it's a big, big difference.
Yeah, so you can't have a conservative start. Big skid there.
High line in the Kreisel, but gets out straight.
See if that cost him. We went from 12 to 11, so we stopped accelerating away. Now, any more mistakes here?
Not good from 9 to 10. Spring was 105.1. He's a kilometre now down. The gap's down to 4. He's going behind.
So Spring picks somebody else off.
Yep, Chris Spring will stay in the lead.
Yeah. It's nice when we can sit there and use those speeds and know that they're going to lose it from green to red.
And, you know, we're talking about half a kilometre an hour. You know, in sprinting, that's a big margin. And on this track, it is as well.
Well, expected more out of this British foursome right here. Great athletes. Lamon in 2015 was challenging for a medal and crashed in the 3rd run. So look at the driver in and down quickly. Number 2 waits for the 3 guy. I always like to say choreography on ice, and this is very well done by the British. They were settled before the Czech team we just saw. Watch the right side. Airborne runner probably here. Oh, he hit the back end of the wall there.
Look at Joel Fearon in the back getting bounced around. There's Lamindine.
Guardian of the Queen.
He guards Manchester United's fortunes even more jealously than Her Majesty. Justin Olsen of the USA next up, 16th place, and he had a 10th of a second in hand over Chris Spring from the first heat.
Nate Weber, Carlo Valdez, and Chris Fote, they had a good start, 5:05.
Chris's brother Ben also starting in the race. He was behind Alana Myers-Taylor. 5:06, same as the Brits that they were 300s in front of.
Justin, probably the least experienced 4-man driver in the field, 5:06 speed. And not as good a speed as the British, even though they only 100 down. 1100s in the bank here, but watch the head slap here. Not too bad. Great aerodynamic profile by his team. 91.5's not the best speed.
10th World Cup race as a 4-man driver for Justin Olsen.
Oh, he's down to 500s. Not good. Speed. Good lines there. 104. His coaches are saying he's just driving too much. Well, he's an inexperienced 4-man pilot, so it takes time to figure out these big 4-man sleds. And he's just learning his way down the track.
Whoa, had to swerve away from the left-hand wall, rattled the right-hand wall instead. He saw the danger as he came off the corner. Chris Spring and the boys loving it up in the leader's box.
He said he was going to take 7 spots. Well, he's got 5 scalps.
Olsen drops to 3rd behind Lamindine.
Justin Olsen just learning how to drive these things. Look at him, you can see the look in his eyes. This is a very competitive athlete. Won the Olympic gold medal with Holcomb, 2010. The exit here, they're just saying he's steering too much, and it's tough not to teach somebody not to steer when you're going 75 miles an hour.
It comes with experience, doesn't it? You trust your instincts better. Swerves
That's too
away.
much steering there. Steering out of the corner too much and hit the wall before the timing out.
Hey everybody, like I said, Merry Christmas. Let's see how Cody Baskey goes, huh?
Next up is a tied 16th place runner, tied with Justin Olsen, or rather Justin Olsen tied with Loïc Costerg of France. With Vincent Ricard, Vincent Castel and Dorian Hauteville. Big day for the French yesterday in 2-man. Roman Heinrich producing his career best.
22nd best start here. He had the 2nd best speed at the bottom, only to Lochner. So this young French guy, who had a great finish in North America, 6th place in Whistler, he's taken on the personality of his coach, Bruno Mangeon, who's one of the best 4-man pilots we've seen in the last 2 decades.
Hasn't raced on this track in a couple of years. Best 4-man result was 6th place in Whistler in November.
He's a good pilot, just lacks at the start. He's 1000s back, 91.7. Now this is what he does. He's a speed merchant, and there is speed on the bottom part of this track.
Yeah, it'll be the final part of the track where he produces the goods.
Excellent. Best speed of the heat.
Yeah, he's close enough.
125.2 is the best. He could be the leader.
He will take the lead away from Chris Spring. France will go into the leaders box.
No.
Oh my goodness, no.
What happened there?
Wow, 200ths of a second.
There's Bruno Major, Max Robert on the right. They're bronze medalists from the '98 Olympics in Nagano.
Oh, and
that's
thumps
a
the
hard
wall.
hit.
And don't forget, they went up onto the rubber in the first heat. They must have spent a lot of time repolishing the runners.
First time the speeds have let us down. He had better speed in the last two traps, and we thought he was going to catch. Ooh, look at see he hit his knee getting in. Number 2's waiting for 3. 3's waiting for the 4.
Yep.
Not a lot of cohesion there with those arms. Should be coming up together and around. Then down here, where does he make a mistake to lose that speed? Oh,
yeah, bumps
that's
the wall
not
on
bad,
the right.
though. That's not bad.
Doesn't need to be. He was only 200ths out of it, wasn't he? So doesn't need to be bad. It's Chris Spring who leads, 5 of 21 sleds down. Tied 14th in our first heat were Nick Polonyato of Canada here and Maxim Anjanov of Russia, who comes next.
Plug, Brown, and Coxell, they're formidable team here.
Yep.
507, excellent.
Swapping a few brakemen around. Derek Plug making a rare start this season. Alice Brown was on the 2-man yesterday. They finished on the podium, then they were disqualified. The cowl of the sled was too narrow in the opening. That's a safety issue, they say. So.
Oh, look at the way that sled came up there in the back end of the exit of 5. 1200s ahead, it's down to 11.
Trying to take the lead off his teammate Chris Spring, who started 21st in this field of 21.
Spring's got a little bit better speed, but 1000s is a lot of time. Ooh, skid there, 104.6 is not the 105 speed that Chris Spring had. Down to 4, 123.9, well,
can be very, very close.
Yes.
Yeah, flip a coin, because it's going either way.
There it is. So we were too afraid to predict there, because we got burned last time.
Well,
51, 61, 1000s better. Very predictable. Everybody's going 1000s better.
Tied with Lamin Dean, so the top 4 sleds now are covered by 300ths of a second. Basically, the next sled, Anjanov, he's got to beat all of them or none of them. You know, 300ths is no time at all.
Look at the heads. Look at this. Look at the back end come up. See that back runner? And then he slides into 5-6.
It was a tidier run than the first heat. He was a little bit skiddier in heat 1.
9. Let's see how, can we see any heads back there, shoulders? Yeah, we see a little bit of air.
Same skids as in the first heat. There's Nick Polonyato. Well, he won't be thinking favourably about Igls as he heads home for Christmas. Having a really strong season. Maxim Anjanov up next, tied for 14th place and 4500ths out of the lead, but the gap to the medals is about 2500ths of a second, so still a long way out of reach on a track this short.
And there's a big competition going on between the Russians and Americans to qualify 3 sleds for the games. Right now it's Germany, Canada, and US-Russia is a toss-up.
Yeah.
So this is an important run, not against the field as much as against the Americans.
Yeah.
And they've already had, Nick Cunningham didn't qualify, Olsen didn't have such a good run.
5:09 getaway, they did 5:12 in the first heat. And again, no snow in the start grooves, that's all helping the sled move more freely.
Then he went second. 1200s, that's a good sign. Decent start, much better start. Look at that. Heads flop around there in curve 5. 92 is excellent speed.
Right, starting
way up high
now.
though, way up high in the Kreisel. See if that cost him. No.
Fastest sled into the Kreisel so far. Looking for, a huge skid, 104.7. That's really robbed him of speed. Spring was 105, Costed 105.
Is decent. I don't know.
Going to be very close again, but you think, by 100.
So how many guys we got here? 1, 3, 4, 4, 5 sleds separated by 400s. You think every 100th counts on this track? It's over. It's a mile and a half down the track separated by your fingernail.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're a brakeman and you hold your breath, does that make you lighter? I'm not sure how that works. So he has the lead at the moment with 13 sleds still to come because there was a tie in front of him.
Look how high he is in the Kreisel. This is the highest lines I've seen of any sleds in a couple days. And this is the exit of it. Looks pretty good. Curve 9, this is where creates a little problem for himself because he taps there and now he's got to go into curve 10 and that imposing high curve and try not to steer more than he has to.
Julia Schock-Schwaver there, who was in the women's race yesterday, helping with the sled. Next up, Marcus Treichel. Tie for 12th place, was one of 5 ties between 12th and 21st. This is ridiculously close. Here is Marcus Treichel of Austria.
5:09 in the first run. Impressive for this young Austrian. Ooh, not great there, 5:14. So they're 500 slower in their second run than their first, and they had problems in the first curve trying to get the equipment in, and you know, you can't do anything like that on a track that you're dealing with hundreds of seconds at the bottom, Martin.
23rd last year, an improvement of 10 spots in the first heat. That shows how his trajectory has been going, and these brand new sleds he's got are definitely helping.
$100,000 price, brand new Walmer sled.
It's accosted by Raphael Meyer, former Austrian skeleton slider with brother Sammy and his sister. Oh, right up in the woodwork. And here to support
14,
the Austrians.
Gonna run out of track. That's great speed.
How close will he get?
He's gonna fall 4 places.
How close will he get?
14.
Wow.
9th best time of the run.
6
falls
spots.
6 spots.
Well, listen, you only have to be 500 slow, and you fall for the first 5 of those, don't you? Because there's that 5-way tie, pretty much, 400ths of a second.
Second slowest start in the field. If you would have had 500s better in the first run, that would have given him 10 more hundreds, still would have given him 3 more spots.
Well, disappointing second run for Austria's Marcus Treichel.
They were yelling and screaming after that first run, and not in the second run. And look how high he gets there. There's reason there's lips on these curves. And then down on 12, 13, this is, that big sport utility was not perfect.
Tough run for him. He slips down to 6th position, drops 5 spots. Tied for 12th place was Cody Basque of the USA. Now, he set the time. Marcus Treichel tied it, so Treichel went first. Basque then in 12th place.
But he had tied the best start in the first run. Major mistake out of the Exeter Kreisel. See if he can clean that up. 2 of the 4 guys here were Steve Holcomb's crew at the 2014 games and moved over to Cody Basque's sled here in this race, 5:01. They got 1400ths in the bank, and if Cody doesn't make a mistake, should be the leader. 50.8, excellent velocity. This is the night train 2 that Holcomb drove to a bronze medal in 2014. 14 should be at least 14. 12, nope, losing time back, and this is where he made his mistake in the first run, a sloppy exit. Here, much better. Down to 9, though. I don't know.
Keeps the speed on board, but he's not. I mean, no major errors, and yet the speed is not dropping away.
Not there at all.
And that suggests either an aerodynamic problem, but that's unlikely at this speed.
Could be right to the 100.
The runners going to be in the lead by 6.
51, 57. 800's better. He needed every 100 there, because if he would have followed back 4 or 500s, I mean, there's. Look at this leaderboard here. 5 sleds separated by 10 hundredths.
Chris Spring, by the way, still the fastest second trip, 51.46. He was the first man on fresh ice.
Much better run. If Basque would have drove like that in the first run, he'd been up in the top 10 at least. Look at the pretty good. Ooh, you know, that curve 12-13. I like to talk to everybody about their projected lines through there, but that was a good exit. He didn't have any of that energy going left to right.
Just looks like one you have to survive, doesn't it? I don't think there's any genius way through that. Lots of US flags being waved. Cody Basque, the race leader, with 11 sleds to go. Next up, Brad Hall of Great Britain. Brad Hall, 3800ths off the lead, 300ths out of the top 10 in the first heat.
Another one of the excellent athletic teams up here. 5:04. See if they match or get better.
Bronze in Park City in the 4-man race. That was only his 9th ever start in the World Cup. This is his 12th.
50.7, which is equal to 31.5 miles an hour. And watch the heads flop here on this exit of 5.
700s back.
Very quiet. Red numbers, though.
Top 6 covered by 1/10 of a second at the moment.
900's available in the bottom part of the track with good acceleration points at a Kreisel like he just did. He stopped the bleeding now. See if he can eat into it. That's
not bad.
Pretty good.
Avoids any
104,
tax.
similar. Low line though in 10. Maybe too much steering. 7, 123.9. Not the speed that Bascu had, but he's
going to be close, but I don't think he's going to take the lead here.
No.
700's back, and that's 2 spots behind.
See Bascu a little bit faster. Brad Hall 100 slower.
It's 51.65 to the 57 of Cody Bascu, so that undid his 100th of a second advantage, and he dropped 700s behind him.
Just a little bit slower at the start.
Again, a little bit like Cody's sled, not major
he
errors.
lost by 100 to Andronov.
Yeah, not major errors, but
right here,
just
too
maybe,
low at 10.
Maybe not
Then
quite
here,
got the
let's
lines.
watch the exit, 12, 13, that's pretty good.
Yep. Well, 2 young drivers with barely a dozen races each
Him and Olsen,
at this level.
Him and Olsen, the least experience of anybody in the field.
Well, and a few others. Here we go. 10 sleds left in 2017. Cody Bascu, the race leader by a whisker. Next up, Austria's Benny Meyer, 10th after the first heat, 100th out of 9th, 500s out of 8th, and so on. Let's see if he can climb.
504. Everybody else getting a couple hundred slower, so 506. 2. They improved. What an athletic
They were listening.
instinct these people have in city of Innsbruck. We were down there the last couple nights, Martin. What a beautiful place this is. Christmas bazaar going on down there. And host of 2 Olympic Games, 64 and 76. You feel the Olympics in the air around this place. And now Benny Meyer medaled in the World Cup here last year in the 2-man event.
His 2 brothers and his sister are here. His father is coaching. Didn't see his mum. Don't think she does coming to races. Whoa, skid 9 to 10. He did that in the first heat as well, I seem to remember.
Got a lot of time here in the bank. He's pulling away. He could move up here. Better start time is what
1800s in front. He was only 300 up when he sat
much
down.
better. 51,
That's
41.
a really good run.
2/10 better. Second best time of the heat.
Well, that's better than Chris Spring. 51,
Spring went 4/10 better,
yeah.
most improvement, 2/10. They did it at the top, but 200's better at the start. We keep talking about 100, 200s, but that's what the whole race is here.
That might put him up into the top half dozen, maybe even higher.
This is the sled that won the World Championships last year. It was Francisco Friedrich's World Championship sled, and Benny Meyer's got them both, the 2 and the 4, and on his home track. Look at the runner tips. He's not in total control going into 10, but it didn't cost him. Olympic there, who's that?
Now that's Donat Moldovan, I guess.
Yeah, he's been not fit. For not fit, that's a great start.
Kilian Walch, Marcus Sammer, and Donat Moldovan are the crew. So Benny Meyer leads for Austria. Next, another Alpine great nation, Switzerland with Rico Peter. Rico Peter with a silver medal here last year and a bronze in the World Championships 2 seasons ago. Should have enough form to be better than 9th.
Well, 509 start wasn't his best. Sure, they got to get better than, they could be 7 or 8, 7 or 6.
Fabio Batraun back on the sled. 5:10 getaway.
I call Rico a reckless driver because he's reckless and he's fast.
He was pretty wild at the bottom, wasn't
in
he?
the first heat. 50.6 is a good entry into the sled and acceleration point around that first curve, considering the deficient start time.
1600ths of a second behind. He is going to have to really let it fly at the bottom now.
91.8 is not bad speed at all. And he was flying at the bottom, but he was out of control because he doesn't steer.
Listen, the gap from first to second is currently 0.2 of a second.
104.9 is not great. He almost gets up on the roof. He might have hit it. This is where he had problems in the first heat, right here. He's flying, but he's running out of track.
Not even remotely close.
6 second.
51.58, that's 200ths faster than his first heat, but Benny Meyer just went 2/10 faster than his first heat.
Yeah, he got beat up at the start, beat by 800ths at the start. 800ths at the start is 2400ths at the bottom, all things being equal is the equation we use. And on this track, the start is everything. And then you got to have some driving abilities, and this didn't help. This didn't really help on the exit of 9. Then he gets up to the roof on 10. Did he hit? I bet you there's some paint up there. We've seen a lot of sleds up there today.
We need some tissue paper along the woodwork so that it hangs down when it's been hit.
A light when it's been hit.
Yeah, like in fencing.
Yeah.
So 8 to go, and Benny Meyer of Austria the leader. Alexei Stulnev for Russia. First sled off the mountain. 5th place last year.
He's had a tough year. Didn't even make the cut last week in Winterberg.
Well, compared to his best ever World Cup 4-man result came in January this year, not this season, in January in Koenigsegg, and yet this year, you know, he needs a map and a torch to try and find pace.
Well, it's because he had the 19th best start, and you know, you can't do that here. 5:12 in the first run, and hope to get 5:10, 5:7. See, that's inconsistency. You got to be the same in every heat.
19th best equals 6th worst in this field, isn't it? That's the way to look at that.
15 hundredths more in the first heat, and he's down there chasing the top 5.
Question is, can he capitalize? He was 100th behind, now 600ths behind.
Stop the bleeding. The next clock, he's got a chance. He stopped it. 91.9's better speed than the Swiss and the Austrian sled. Down to 3. Here he comes.
Right, this could be the end of Benny Meyer's run at the top of the leaderboard. Alexei Stulnev is in the green numbers.
105.3 is as good as anybody.
Yep.
Only a bad line down here. 124.8.
That's good
Meyer
enough.
at 125.
Good enough. He'll take the lead by a whisker. 51.37. Fastest run of the heat.
Better.
Yep. Same as Benny Meyer.
Is it getting colder? Is it getting, what time is it?
I don't know. He was the first sled on the ice. Benny Meyer was the 19th. Maybe where the conditions were substantially different, but...
Best finish of the year.
Yeah.
Well, bobsled start. Choreography on ice. Watch the Cohees and the 2 guys on the side. Number 2 waits for 3. Watch the arms come up and little synchronized swimming, it almost looks like sometimes, doesn't it?
Well, what's going on with Stulnev? 21st last week, didn't make the cut. No worse than 8th today.
I think somebody put a little whisper in his ear. We have to improve. He did. He's coming back to last year's form. Russian athletes have conducted themselves very well considering what they're going through.
Next up, Latvia's Oskars Kibamanis. 400s in hand over Alexei Stulnev. 100th out of the top half dozen. Kibamanis went off 8th. Best result on this track last, what was that, in 12th place, 8th place last year.
5th in Winterberg last week, and you like they're jogging. You know, this is a very formidable start team, and 5:03 in the first run, 5:05. So I still think both Latvian sleds are just sleeping. They want to not peak in December. They want to peak in February. And this guy medaled in both the 2 and the 4 in Pyeongchang last year.
Yeah, but that was with electrifying start times then as well.
And 4 years ago, he was walking the streets of Riga. They plucked him off the streets, put him in the front seat of a sled, this decathlete, and here he is. He could, I would say he's one of my favorites to win a medal in Korea.
Good speed, 65.1 miles an hour, 77.2. Drops into the red behind Stulnev. Meyer's only 800s back, but he beats Meyer.
Well, that's a big deal for Stulnev and the Russians, according to the points, for getting top 3 sleds into the Olympic Games ahead of the U.S. The Russians are going to have all three of their 4 sleds will be in front of the U.S.
No Igls in the 4-man races for Latvia.
Look at him hold on.
Yeah. So it's going to be the 2 Oskars that go, Kibamanis and Melbardis.
Look at the heads. Look at the profile of the 3 guys behind him. That's really good aerodynamics. The brakeman looks up a little bit, though. Brakeman should be the lowest of the 4. That's where all the dirty air comes around and exits the sled. This little coffin. Pretty good, quiet exit down there. Maybe just steered too much. Well, wrong runners.
A couple of weeks off now. They're going to have to concentrate on getting fitter and stronger. Alexei Stulnev leads for Russia with 6 to go in Innsbruck in Austria. Next up is Alexander Kasyanov. Kasyanov, last year's Standout driver in four-man, the World Cup champion with wins in Whistler and in the pre-Olympic test in Pyeongchang.
He likes tracks like Whistler, Altenburg, and 507 start. If he gets a great start, this guy could challenge anybody. 6, even better. 50.8 kilometer speed, probably like 31.7 miles an hour. 50.8, 50.9. That's the team entering the sled and not affecting the velocity, and then the driver with a good negotiation around the first curve.
Never won a four-man race in Europe. He's only had 3 of his 14 World Cup medals on European tracks. All the rest have come 2 in Sochi and 9 in North America.
He's losing hundreds back to his teammates, Stolnev.
Yep. He was 600s up at the start. He'll be lucky to be 600s up off the Kreisel.
This is going to be close. 200s, 124.2. This is a race within a race.
Stolnev's going to pick him off. He's in trouble there. Has he got enough speed? No.
Almost tipped over. Almost rolled the sled the other way. I don't think the Russians are happy about Kazanov beating him, or not beating him here.
Stolnev gets more points. Kazanov's already the number 1 driver. It's where the number 2 and the number 3 are that matter. So it's more points for Stolnev. All right, Kazanov, yeah, whatever. He'll still end the season as their number 1.
Almost tipped over in the bottom. The sled almost had a reverse roll.
Yeah.
Watch the back end come up here. Now watch if they give us the picture of the next curve. Watch this. Watch the sled almost turn away from us. Look at that.
All that meat, yeah. That almost rolled it over.
Reverse spin.
That's as close as we've seen. So Alexei Pushkarev offering his driver his congratulations, but it is Alexei Stolnev who leads with 5 to go in Innsbruck. Martin Haven, John Morgan watching the final four-man race of the pre-Christmas run here in Innsbruck in Austria. Oskars Melbardis next to go. Melbardis, the winner of the race here last year. He was the 2015 European champion as well.
5:01, 4th best start in the first round. They should do that or better.
Melbardis has not been beaten on this track in 4 seasons.
Won the World Championships here, the Latvians' first ever in 2015. And he won the silver medal at the Olympic Games in Sochi in 2014. Latvia's first ever medal in bobsledding.
Last man to beat him on this track in 2012 was Max Arndt.
Well,
that feels like a long while ago saying those names.
He's losing some time back here too. The speed's not perfect. The lines are excellent. 1300s is a lot of time.
He was 200s out of 4th. And he was
105 flats, excellent dives out of 10. Let's watch the back end of the sled here. Heads, nice. Didn't carve too much ice. This will be the leader.
124.7 at the bottom is good enough. 51.36
better.
There's Stolnev on the left. Yeah, that was a 10th better than we saw from Kazanov. 100th better than Stolnev.
Well, they're just buying their time, these two Latvian sleds. Melbardis, the silver or maybe gold medalist.
Hasn't been beaten in 4 years, but that run comes to an end here.
These are 4 huge men sprinting across the ice at 25 miles an hour and get in, get down with cohesion. And does the push bar hit the side window? It does. That's a little bit of a mistake. It might have cost him 100th, but 100th here. Difference between podium and also ran.
We have a new brake, huh?
Got to get a new brake on the sled. Last thing you need on the run, obviously. Nico Volter next up, 4th place, 2100s out of gold. He was 1200s out of the medals. Can he break his way in? Winner in Park City first race, bronze in Whistler, silver in Winterberg. The only man to have taken 3 medals in four-man this season. Can he make it a 4th?
5:04 the first run, 5:03. Like all the top 10 teams we've seen, everybody's improving by 100th or 2. The Russians went 500s better. 50.8, they should have had better velocity than that. Nico Volter finds the fast lines on the bottom. Came from the sport of luge. Ooh, skid there.
Very close. 200ths of a second.
91.8, excellent speed though, but he's in the red by 5.
Going out away from him.
That's not good there.
That's not helping.
104.6, no speed there at all. Where Latvians was 105. He's going to have to find some Austrian shortcut.
Not going to find it. He's going to be in second place at the line. He's going to drift away from the medals.
5th best time. So Melbardis, I think that's his best. That's his best finish of the year, isn't it?
Apart from here.
No, he had fourth in the first event, Park City.
Well, there are only 3 left and he leads, so it is equaling his best result of the year, yeah.
Nico Valter, that skid up there on 7, or 6 to 7, didn't help his efforts.
Melbardis' only win last year came here in Innsbruck.
Watch the push bar here too. I mean, look at the number 2 guy. Shouldn't be reaching onto the side of the. So look at that, dragging along the glass.
You recognize those tattooed arms. It's Kevin Kuska.
Yeah.
And then Christian Poser, Eric Franke on the brakes. Couldn't get the handles in time.
This was a good steer through 12-13. Might have been, watch
bit
the
rocky
rotation.
and rolling. Yeah.
Boy, a lot of pressure down there.
Okay, 3 to go, and it is Oskars Melbardis who leads. Justin Cripps next up for Canada.
That's Kopak, Jesse Lumsden.
3rd fastest start in the first heat.
Mr. Smith on the back. 496. That gets near the start record.
300s off the start record.
Speed 51 watt, 51.2, the best speed at that point we've seen in the competition.
These guys can just dig in every single time and find a little more. Alex Kopacz, Jesse Lumsden, Shea Smith, a great start.
Ooh, a tap there. That's going to cost him a little bit.
But look
he's
at
got
the
a
margin.
3/10 lead.
3/10 clear.
Oh, skid there too, though.
This is a shot for victory. He was only 900ths off the lead in the first heat, and that's a big mistake.
105, still excellent speed, but the next clock that's got to come down to probably 20s, 30s. He's hanging in there.
Wow, what a great run from Justin Cripps.
Silver medal yesterday.
Dive to the line.
Wow, 51.25, 1000ths better. The Latvians waved that off, and wow, the start.
96, baby. That was Shea Smith. What did we start? 96. That's an awesome start and a great drive. One big mistake, 9 to 10.
Well, they didn't
7
help
to
here,
8
7
as well.
8. This
Yeah.
is into 8, but then here too, 9 to 10. This wasn't perfect, but you know, sometimes the fastest rides are the roughest rides, and you know, this is one of those Elvis rides on the way down. Look at that. That's a little airborne runner, but Cripps, nice weekend, at least
In the
another
medals
podium.
again. And that means that with Cripps in the medals, Melbardis will take at least a bronze medal in the European Championships. Next up, the 2 German sleds that have been the benchmarks in the 4-man competition in last year's World Championship. They were inseparable over 4 runs. Johannes Lochner here, and next Francesco Friedrich. Which of them will come out on top?
Well, they just saw the Canadians do a 96. They did 5:05. They've got to get close to 5 flat to challenge the Canadians at the bottom. 5:02, improved. Canadians at a 51.2 start velocity, which is 31.8 miles an hour. 51.1. So for 600ths better, they're only a 1/10 of the kilometer down. That was a good entry into the sled and a good drive by Lochner, last week's winner.
Lochner, the reigning European champion, the only man with 2 4-man wins this season. Can he make it 3? 700s behind Cripps. The gap's coming back down.
Cripps was sloppy, down to 4.
Lochner, like Friedrich, in a brand new Valner sled,
nice.
and he's tied for the lead.
No one's had that speed all day.
Fastest sled on the ice.
500ths. What, can he get through the last curve? He does.
Is this good enough for gold? He'll take the lead with 1 to go.
51.11, 2300ths better in the second run.
Wow, that really throws down the gauntlet to Francesco Friedrich. Well, they lead, but they're going to have to wait 2 minutes to find out whether or not they win.
Johannes with his family looking on, his father, mother, cousins, lives in Berchtesgaden, not far from the track, and this young phenom, the leading world, the world champion from last year, last week's winner, he just, under pressure, delivered the goods. Now let's see what his teammate can do. Well, maybe we'll have another tie.
He'll be at least the European silver medalist, having won the title last year.
He is a little bit of a clown,
What a big smile from him. So here we go, pressure on for Francesco Friedrich, but does he ever feel any? I really don't think he does.
Yeah.
Candy Bauer at 2, Martin Grotkopp at 3, and Torsten Marcus at 4. They didn't have the neatest of starts, but they were hurrying up in the snow.
They had 4.99 start. That was the best start. 4.96 is the number the Canadians posted. 4.501. Well, watch out.
Okay.
51 flat they had in the first run, 51-1, 50.8, not as good. I wonder if this is a conservative approach. That could cost them down here. It's only down to 300s.
They just didn't have the same momentum that they had in the first heat.
In 2015 World Championships, a skid there. Friedrich had the lead after 3 heats into the 14th. He hit the lip in curve 10, fell the second, and the Latvians won the gold medal.
300ths of a second behind. He had 800ths in front in the first heat.
Doesn't have the speed. He's almost a kilometer down to his teammate.
Same sled,
He's going to
both
fall back 2
infallible
places.
sleds. And he is 1200ths back. Justin Cripps could take the silver medal here. Lochner wins it. Friedrich is in the bronze. Lochner wins for the 3rd time this season in 5 four-man starts.
They didn't get a start. Canadians beat him by 500ths at the start. They lost the Canadians by 500ths at the bottom. They needed back that.
Cripps drove down 1400ths quicker than Friedrich.
Friedrich was 1300ths worse in the second run.
Yeah.
Everybody else is better. I don't know about the start. Surprised. This is one of the better starting teams in the world. They did not. Everybody else in the top 10 was improving at the start. These guys went a couple hundredths slower. Let's see if we see anything on the runners. Everything looks clean. The arms come up.
Well, just sometimes it doesn't quite work for you, and Francesco Friedrich takes a European silver medal. Oskars Melbardis the bronze, but there is your reigning and defending European champion. Hannes Lochner won it last year, and he is now a 2-time European champion, as well as the reigning 4-man world champion. Well. Trying to do his shoelaces up, and you're still on camera.
6 different countries in the top 6.
Yeah.
The competitiveness in the sport. And up here in this track, Innsbruck, it's about to start. These guys came out. They only had the 5th best start, but I think our friend Johannes Lochner is starting to figure out how to drive these big sleds. He's also very good in the 2-man. But the Germans pushing each other today. Lochner, the most consistent person out here, walks away with his 3rd gold medal in 5 races this year.
Germany go 1-3-5, so they take the gold and the silver in the European Championships. With Johannes Lochner, Francesco Friedrich, Oskars Melbardis takes the bronze medal ahead of Nico Walter and Alexei Stulnev. So rounding out the top 10, Kazyanov in 8th, Benny Meyer in 9th for Austria, and Rico Peter in 10th position ahead of Cody Basque. Max Anjanov, Brad Hall, the top British sled, tied with Chris Spring for 13th ahead of Loic Kosterg. And then a tie for 16th, Polignato and Dean. Ahead all the way down to 21st place, Ivo de Brun. So another edge of the seat finale here in the Igls. Well, more breathtaking racing from the 4-man field, as we've seen all weekend, indeed, as we've seen all season from our 5 disciplines. Can you tell that there's an Olympics around the corner? Well, Francesco Friedrich and his crew will be disappointed, but certainly not down and out to have slipped a little out of the lead. The race is here. And this isn't just us watching from the outside and you watching at home. Even the athletes are going, this is just crazy this year. It's so tight, so competitive. And in fact, Yunjung Wong with 3 races, 3 race wins in men's skeleton, and Johannes Lochner now with 3 in the 4-man bobsleigh are the only guys who are kind of starting to present themselves as likely winners every race. Francesco Friedrich with his first medal in the 4-man in Winterberg last week. He takes another bronze in the 4-man, but won yesterday in the 2-man. Hansi Lochner, he's on a rare run of form at the moment. And Lochner, only a dozen 4-man World Cup races into his career. He's had a third race now, so that makes 6 four-man wins in 13 starts in the World Cup. So his winning record is getting better and better. Thomas Schwab there, the head of the German Sliding Federation. Alexander Resch down there as well. We saw yesterday he's handling PR work for the BSD. Alexander Resch, former double Olympic world champion in men's doubles luge. Of course, that will all be coming up in everybody's focus now. We head home for Christmas, but the games are coming at us fast. Innsbruck, Austria, a beautiful alpine vista and a stunning race. Johannes Lochner takes his third win of the season. He leads the table ahead of teammate Nico Walter. Justin Kripps in third, ahead of Francesco Friedrich, but the gap is closing as every race produces yet another bunch of inspired performances. Some drivers are absolutely performing out of their skin this season. Loic Costegui for France, there's a good example. 15th place in the four-man World Cup rankings. Well, lots to contemplate as we head away for a brief fortnight Christmas break. But Johannes Lochner will be the happiest four-man driver in the place, arguably. He is again the European champion, as he won the title last year in St. Moritz. Francesco Friedrich takes silver, Oskars Melbardis the bronze, ahead of Nico Walter, Alexei Stulnev and Oskars Kiba-Manis. So the European Championship positions are decided, and the 5th gold medal of the season goes to the man that's already snatched 2 of them, Johannes Lochner. Great start from the Bavarian and his crew, and an impeccable drive to hold off the challenge of Justin Kripps. He accelerated away with the fastest run of the heat, a 51.11. Next closest man was Kripps with a 51.25. And Lochner, seeing his teammate Francesco Friedrich slip to third place, makes life even sweeter. And the Canadians yet again on the podium, and preventing the Germans from a clean sweep were Justin Kripps and Oskars Melbardis. Melbardis' 4-year run of victories on the track, uninterrupted, has come to a halt. And the tide has been stemmed by Johannes Lochner, the four-man driver of the season. Again, big smiles from the Canadians. They're all looking very happy, as rightly they should. Justin Kripps and the crew. You can see Jesse Lumsden on our right, Alex Kopacz on the left, and tucked in behind there is Shea Smith. And Friedrich and his crew still smiling. Win, lose or draw, they know the big deal this year is yet to come. 2018 Pyeongchang, that's what it's all about. We head home to Christmas. Thank you for being with us throughout 2017. Join us in the first weekend of January in Altenburg as we do it all again. And by that stage, we will be rabbits in the headlights as the Olympic Games hurtle towards us. Until then, for John Morgan and the IBSF TV crew, I'm Martin Haven saying thank you for being with us. We'll see you next year. Merry Christmas.